Welcome, everyone. It's good to have you all logged in tonight on our Zoom session. I am very happy to have all of you here joining us for our second session of Conchas y Café's, or I should say, second lesson of Fall 2025 Conchas y Café. And to kick us off, we're going to actually begin with a brief reading featuring work written by our now late friend San Juanita Martinez. We miss you, San Juanita. We know that your words and your presence in our workshops left an impact on all of us. And we have a couple of our fellow Conchas y Café participants tonight looking to honor San Juanita's work. So with that, I'd like to pass it off to River, who joined our Conchas y Café workshop series maybe about a year and a half ago, and had the honor of being in this group with San Juanita. River, the mic is yours.
So I've only been, I think this might be my sixth course, I'm not sure. So I've only known San Juanita through the class. And I enjoyed my time with her so much. Like many of you, I look forward to seeing you every semester. So I was deeply saddened to hear of San Juanita's passing. And I went to pick up one of the books. I thought I could look at her poetry and sort of remember and honor her. And the very first poem it opened to is my favorite poem of hers. It's one, every time I look at it, I think, this is a poem I can take with me every day. I could have it in my pocket every single day and carry it with me. Mm-hmm. And it just really, I'll just go ahead and read it. It's called Before I Go, and to Lengthen the Time. I must take the road not taken and make new footprints. I must revisit the old album and reminisce once again. I must see the northern lights and relish this day. I must go parachuting and let myself go. I must climb a mountain and shout for joy. I must forgive my enemies and lighten my heart. I must plant a tree and add some flowers. I must milk a cow and feed the chickens. I must stomp on puddles and run without care. I must take the long way home and drive the winding road. I must drink tequila shots and savor it with salt. I must light a campfire to welcome the night. I must complete a family tree and celebrate my ancestors. I must look for roses where there are thorns. I must sew a dress and wear it in summer. I must paint sunsets and call it a name. I must draw sunrises and pray for a sign. I must sleep under the stars and count them one by one. I must fly a kite and let it go high. I must volunteer again and live a full life before I go, and to lengthen the time.
Excellent.
Wow.
Thank you, River. And now, reading one more poem by San Juanita, our very own, our esteemed Miss Luz Tonis.
Hello, everyone. I went through a lot of zines to find one that I especially enjoyed. This one is from See My Words, Volume 8, Issue 1. And this one practically sounds like she's speaking to us from the other side. So, en español, búsquenme y ahí estaré. San Juanita Martínez. Desde el cantar de algún colorido higuero, en el verdor de la primavera, búsquenme en la sombra de un buen árbol. Mientras, a lo lejos, vendrá un recuerdo mío. Sabrán que aún les cuido. Desde el remolinear de las hojas en el triste otoño, atiendan el silencio hasta que ensordezca. Y al percibir mis suspiros, sentirán que aún les acompaño. Desde el caer de las frías gotas en el congelado invierno, respiren hondo y tendido, hasta que el aire puro lo sientan y respiran al compás mío. Búsquenme. Cuando más quieran sentir mi esencia, cierren los ojos, suspiren, escuchen el silencio y poco a poco tranquilizarán sus almas y ahí estaré.
That was amazing.
I know.
I don't know if that could have been honestly any more appropriate. Thank you, Miss Luz. Thank you Thank you to Miss Luz and River, both of you, for honoring San Juanita's memory. This particular lesson, I had it actually planned maybe a few weeks before we all learned of San Juanita's passing. But in some ways, it's actually appropriate that we would have something like this, given just San Juanita's nature, her faith that she had in her God and in the things that made her happy. And I agree with Abraham. Both you, Miss Luz, and River, both of you found poems that really truly reflected the type of person that San Juanita was. I don't think we could have done any better by her. So thank you. And with that, I guess we'll go ahead and get into today's lesson. And today's lesson is going to take us to a couple of different ideas, a couple of different concepts that I hope we all can find maybe some kind of meaning in, something that can hopefully help us all not just explore our writing, but maybe even something further, something that is related to why we write and the things that writing can do for all of us across all continents, across all times, ultimately. And as I typically like to do, I do have a quote to start us off. Esta cita en particular que empezaremos, que leeremos aquí para empezar nuestra lección, viene de Eduardo Chirinos. Eduardo Chirinos is a Peruvian poet and author of over 15 books of poetry, as well as volumes of academic criticism, numerous essays, translations, and children's books. Nació Chirinos el 4 de abril del año 1960 y falleció el 17 de febrero en el año 2016. Y como poeta, aquí tenemos una cita que viene directamente de uno de sus poemas, que se llama Fragmentos de una alabanza inconclusa. La cita empieza: debe haber un poema que hable de ti, un poema que habite algún espacio donde pueda hablarte sin cerrar los ojos, sin llegar necesariamente a la tristeza. And in English, I translated today's quote as, there should be a poem that speaks of you, a poem that resides in a space where it can speak to you without closing its eyes, without necessarily arriving at sadness. And like I said, I had planned this well before we knew of San Juanita's passing a couple of weeks ago. So this might hit slightly differently given the circumstances, given the context of today's session. But I'd like to hear from you. What does this make you think? How does this make you feel? Any thoughts? Initial impressions? And of course, there is no right or wrong answer. Ms. Mary?
Oh, I was just thinking that a space without closing your eyes. I don't know, it seems like without hiding or without hiding parts of ourselves.
Yeah, I like that, kind of like a space where it can live without fear, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. I appreciate that. River added in our chat here, that is how I felt about San Juanita's piece before I go into lengthen the time. It's perfectly said. A poem that can speak to you without closing its eyes resides in a space you can take with you. And I don't mean physically in a pocket, but like a pocket inside of you. That's a very poetic response there. I like that. Anyone else?
I keep thinking that I'm not understanding it because to me it seems like he's trying to say that there should be a poem that speaks of you and a poem that resides in a space, but without closing its eyes or without arriving at sadness. So for me, it's almost like a direction to be able to call out all the things, but we don't necessarily take it to that place of pain. And I know that's got to be kind of wrong because someone wouldn't direct you how to respond to a poem. But it's like, it's almost like someone who's coaching and wants you to write from within, but not necessarily all the writing has to be about sadness or pain, but that there's all the pieces of you. I'm just getting that flavor.
I think that's a good flavor to get, though. I mean, it's maybe in some ways eliciting a response from you that is just as a reminder that not all things have to be sad, right? Not all poems that are in remembrance of someone need to be because we're sad. Maybe.
Does it say someplace that it's about the poem is to a remembrance to a friend or something?
Well, not in our quote. Right? We're just basing it on quote.
Okay.
Yeah, not necessarily.
Hey, Luis.
Another thought is, I'm sorry.
Sorry. This is Dr. Rosie. And I feel that there are so many poems out there written, whether male, female, doesn't matter, that a lot of us relate to so many different poems in certain ways. They speak of us. It's like they were written for us. It's the same thing like with certain songs. You write certain songs and say, that's you, that's your song. And even though, let's say you didn't write one, but because we're all human, we have feelings, we have different moods and all that. I feel that this poem, the way it's set up, it's like a reminder that there's so many poems that speak of us, and it just depends on what perspective we're looking at it from.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Abraham, you've been patiently waiting. Thank you, sir.
Well, at the beginning, I thought of it as a writer. I was like, like writing a song about yourself, which, I tend to write something other than me stuff. but then I started thinking, it's more of a poetry in general. Like you as any person have a particular set of emotions or personality traits that might be reflected in somebody's poem, right? And they don't have to be sad. Like right now, the ones we have might have got us a little bit there, but not all is the case, right? And that's why we always say, like, write something that people will be connecting to, right? Even it might be your experience or somebody else's experience, but people will connect to it because, it comes from a human place.
Yeah, I think that's a great reminder, that we should be writing from a place that creates connection with our audience. No, I mean, this is a fragment of a poem called Fragments of an Inconclusive Prayer. So, we're not given the entire poem, right? Because this is a portion of it. And I think that in these opening lines, which I didn't mention earlier, but these are the first 3 lines of the poem. And, so it's setting up something,
Setting you up,
setting
yeah.
up some kind of idea about the function of poetry.
Right.
I feel like as a quote, we can take whatever it is that we take from it and then potentially use this in a way that can give us a different form or a different perspective, right? A different way of looking at the function of poetry. So, yeah, I appreciate what Abraham shared in that, we can look at this as writers and maybe try to apply this idea of a poem potentially residing in a space where it doesn't have to necessarily arrive at sadness. It's, I think, easy to write about sadness, but poems can exist in other spaces too, in places that bring us joy, that bring us a stronger sense of faith, a stronger sense of love for ourselves or for one another. Poems have the ability to do that. And part of the way that can be achieved is through what we're going to be discussing for today. But before we do move on, does anyone else have any other responses to our quote? And again, for those that might have missed it earlier, in English, the way that I translated it to say, there should be a poem that speaks of you, a poem that resides in a space where it can speak to you without closing its eyes, without necessarily arriving at sadness. Y en el español original, Eduardo Chirinos escribió, debe haber un poema que hable de ti, un poema que habite algún espacio donde pueda hablarte sin cerrar los ojos, sin llegar necesariamente a la tristeza. So any other additional responses before we move on?
Well, now I want to read all of it to see how it really turns out to be a fragment of an inconclusive prayer. Yeah.
I see a hand.
I think for me, Luis, it just reminds me that there is a place within me where I can be equanimous or centered enough to, I guess, to not react. I guess in whether it be extreme happiness or sadness. So to be, I guess, more objective.
Okay.
And in order to, I guess, captivate the message.
Nice. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Luz. I appreciate that perspective. Grisel, thank you for waiting.
So, creo que yo me fui mucho más allá que todos. So, para mí es algo como que dejas como un legado después de tu muerte. Que cuando te mueres no quieres que haya tristeza entre la gente que has dejado detrás. Y entonces es algo que te representa a ti, diciendo que sea lo que sea, todo no te lleva necesariamente a la tristeza o algo malo. So, yeah.
I like that perspective too, que hable un poco del legado, ¿verdad? De lo que dejamos aquí en este mundo. I think that's a really strong way of looking at this, our legacy, and for all of us really as writers, if we are producing work, and whether that be in a tablet, on our phones, or actually handwritten or published, if we end up publishing, right, that becomes kind of a legacy for the generations that follow us. You never know who in your family will someday come across one of your journals or one of your notebooks where you kept your ideas, and maybe that's a way for them to connect with you without necessarily arriving at sadness. So yeah, thank you all of you who shared your perspectives. I appreciate it. And I think that all of you, with your different ways of interpreting it, kind of llegaron a lo que yo esperaba que llegarían. All of you came to this thing that I have learned as functional ambiguity, right? Functional ambiguity, or la ambigüedad funcional, It's a rhetorical device. So this is actually a technique that you can use in your writing, in your poetry, that can help you create what's basically a purposeful vagueness of meaning. Si consideran que existe una fusión retórica de ideas e imágenes que permiten variadas interpretaciones entre lectores y audiencias, eso es básicamente lo que es la ambigüedad funcional. This technique is something that, for a lot of people, it's not terribly difficult to arrive to, but it does take a little bit of forethought. It does take a little bit of planning if you want to achieve functional ambiguity in your writing. And the way that I try to kind of describe it is, as you see here, it's a fusion of ideas and images, so that you can give people as many potential interpretations of your work as is possible. River writes in our chat, I love this technique so much, I should probably go to poetry jail for overusing it. It's a style, right? It's a part of a way of developing a voice in poetry that can work for us. Our concept that we're gonna kind of build on is this one, functional ambiguity, la ambigüedad funcional. Y la verdad es que no funciona la ambigüedad funcional sin entender la metáfora. Metaphor is going to be one of those foundational elements, one of those foundational tools that can help you achieve functional ambiguity. And to be clear about what metaphor is, I'm giving you all the definition that I have pretty much always used for metaphor. It's the use of a word, phrase, object, or idea to denote an analogous relationship with a separate, distinct object or idea. My favorite way, as you can see here, as it is bolded, my favorite way of describing metaphor is to think of it as a state of being as is another. La metáfora, para mí, es un estado de ser tal como otro. And we're going to discuss this obviously a little bit more, but so far, does anyone have any questions? Are we still following along? Are we doing okay here? We're just introducing some of the vocabulary at this time. All right, hay que seguirle pues. So functional ambiguity is something that I think we can best experience by seeing it in action or by hearing it in action. Before I play the music video In Your Eyes by Peter Gabriel, I want to make sure that we know the lyrics beforehand so that we can listen to the lyrics with this kind of familiarity with them. Y como ven aquí, sí tomé el tiempo para traducir la canción, pero aquí tenemos la letra de la canción En Tus Ojos o In Your Eyes, que viene del álbum So. Fue escrito por Peter Gabriel, y él, si no lo conocen, es un cantautor inglés, músico y activista para los derechos humanos. Peter Gabriel is the former frontman for the band Genesis, and after he left Genesis, he went and did his own thing, and In Your Eyes is a song that appears on his album So. The version that we have here and the version that we're going to listen to after this is the short version. There is an extended version, and I did include the first verse and the final verse of the extended version, but that's not what we're going to listen to. And don't worry, if you don't understand functional ambiguity yet, we're going to build on that. And again, we're going to look at this song and we're going to try and interpret what the song is actually about. It is karaoke time para el que quiera leer. Do I have a volunteer that would like to give it a try? And it doesn't have to be sung. if you don't want to sing it. I see a hand from Miss Luz.
What if the song accidentally starts slipping out?
I mean,
Okay, in your eyes. Love, I get so lost sometimes. Days pass and this emptiness fills my heart. When I want to run away, I drive off in my car. But whichever way I go, I come back to the place you are. All my instincts, they return. The grand facade so soon will burn. Without a noise, without my pride, I'll reach out from the inside. In your eyes, the light, the heat, your eyes. Anyways, I am complete. In your eyes, I see the doorway in your eyes, to 1,000 churches in your eyes, the resolution in your eyes, of all the fruitless searches in your eyes, in your eyes. Oh, I see the light and the heat in your eyes, the light, the heat in your eyes. Oh, I want to be that complete. In your eyes, the light, the heat, your eyes. I want to touch the light. The heat I see in your eyes. Love, I don't like to see so much pain, so much wasted, and this moment keeps slipping away. I get so tired of working so hard for our survival. I look to the time with you to keep me awake and alive, and all my instincts they return, and the grand facade so soon will burn. Without a noise, without my pride, I reach out from the inside. In your eyes, your eyes, in your eyes. In your eyes, the light, the heat, your eyes, I am complete. In your eyes, I see the doorway to 1,000 churches. In your eyes, the resolution, your eyes, of all the fruitless searches. Oh, I see the light and the heat in your eyes. Oh, I want to be that complete in your eyes. I want to touch the light, the heat I see in your eyes, in your eyes, in your eyes, in your eyes. Sabet in your eyes, chilam, chita, tangai, the light, the heat, sabet in your eyes. Manji si bir, I am complete. Sabet in your eyes, chi lamp, chi tangai, in the light, the heat, sabet in your eyes. Manji sibir, I am complete. Okay, I'm starting to sweat. Can somebody take over?
excellent job, Miss Luz. Excellent job. Thank you for taking that on. Like I said, this is the short version, so it's not, you know, the full complete extended remix. And I really appreciate that you read for us the part that Yusu Endur sings in his native language of Wolofi, I think. I don't think I pronounced that correctly, but
Wow.
yes, thank you, Ms. Luz. And I believe I saw a hand raise from Grisel. May I have you read for us the translation?
Okay. I don't know. Okay. Ready? Amor, estoy tan perdido. A veces pasan los días de este vacío llena mi corazón. Cuando quiero ir, me voy manejando en mi auto. Sin embargo, en cualquier camino que voy, regreso al lugar en donde tú estés. Todos mis instintos regresan a la gran fachada. Tan pronto quemará, sin sonidos, sin mi orgullo. Extenderé mis manos desde mi interior. En tus ojos, coro, tus ojos, la luz, el calor. Tus ojos, estoy completo. En tus ojos, veo la puerta. En tus ojos, para 1,000 de iglesias. En tus ojos, la resolución. En tus ojos, de tantas búsquedas inútiles. en tus ojos, en tus ojos. Oh, veo la luz y el calor, en tus ojos, la luz, el calor, en tus ojos. Oh, quiero ser así de completo. En tus ojos, la luz, el calor, tus ojos. Quiero tocar la luz, el calor que veo en tus ojos. Amor, no me gusta ver tanto dolor, tanto desperdiciado, y este momento se sigue escapando. Me canso demasiado de trabajar tan duro para nuestra sobrevivencia. Miro hacia el tiempo contigo para mantenerme despierto y vivo. Y todos mis instintos regresan, y la gran fachada tan pronto quemará, sin sonido, sin mi orgullo. Extenderé mis manos desde mi interior. En tus ojos, tus ojos, tus ojos, en tus ojos. En tus ojos, la luz, el calor. Tus ojos, estoy completo. En tus ojos, veo la puerta para unir de iglesias. En tus ojos, la resolución. Tus ojos, de tantas búsquedas inútiles. Oh, veo la luz, el calor, en tus ojos. Oh, quiero ser así de completo en tus ojos. Quiero tocar la luz, el calor que veo en tus ojos. En tus ojos, en tus ojos, en tus ojos. Sabet, en tus ojos. Chilam ki tangay, la luz en tus ojos. Sabet, en tus ojos. Manji chibir, estoy completo. Saber en tus ojos. Chilam Chintangay, la luz, el calor, saber en tus ojos. Manji chibir, estoy completo.
Excellent. Thank you, Giselle. Thank you. I really appreciate both of you reading. It is obviously a little bit longer because this is a song, but now let's give ourselves the opportunity to hear the song itself. So yeah, that was the official music video of In Your Eyes. Obviously the chat we had, a little side discussion about some of you who had never seen the music video before. But, with the lyrics in your mind and now having seen the music video, what would you say the song is about? Clearly the music video tried to give us a certain impression of what it was about.
Right.
But when you listen to the lyrics or listen to the song, what is it that first comes out to you, stands out to you? ¿Qué significa la letra de la canción?
It's like a tale of love.
I think that's pretty clear, right?
I think that the striking part for me and the words were the use of the shadows of the two people coming together to touch. So it's a shadow kind of image, and then they back up again, and they're talking about being inside, or coming out from inside the feeling. I think that there's it's like other words over the poem for me. All the visuals of it helped me see it in a different way. It just takes you on another journey. But I loved also the parts where the hands against the purple were kind of looking like a helix, but they were also in that same kind of imagery as the two bodies coming together. So for me, that kind of really set up an energy field around the poem. That it's first I started critiquing it. Is it from a male point of view? Is it from he, she? Because it starts off with her, you know, this emptiness fills my heart and she's alone. So I'm wondering if it's from her perspective, and then he drives up in his car. You know, it's just, it's powerful with the video. I mean, before it was, I've heard it, but it never like really paid attention deeply to the words as a poem. So doing it with now, it's the first time I've ever seen the video of it. So it takes it on a whole completely different sort of path for me. But it's profound. Peter Gabriel's music is profound for me, or has been in my life.
Yeah, I would agree with that in my own personal life as well. Like this song specifically, in all, like, I guess, transparency, this particular couplet, without a noise, without my pride, I'll reach out from the inside.
Yeah.
There's something that always strikes a chord in that couplet for me. And I'll I'm sure we'll get to that. I'm sure we'll get to why. But yeah, any other impressions? Is there anything that anybody notices about the song in particular?
Well, it seems like he's talking about all of our eyes and our inner eye. And
yeah.
And the seeing a doorway into each other or something. I mean, I think so. Kind of like the energy, the inner light that we have. It's about. Well, for me, I think it was about how. I think you said it like how we merge in each other, and then the two birds at the end.
Yes.
Just very beautiful. But I think it's like humanity's eyes that he's talking to. That's how it came to me.
I like that.
And so we are fruitless searches, but we're here. It's like we have it. Anyway, that's kind of beautiful song.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that you picked up on that, Mary, because there's, I think, the song and its approach in talking about relationships, or at least the relationship of the speaker compared to whoever the you is. It is about finding something after not being able to find what that speaker was always looking for. But there's a realization that that thing that was being searched for existed already in another being, in another essence. And I think if we go back to our definition of functional ambiguity, right, it's a purposeful vagueness of meaning. La ambigüedad funcional aquí en esta canción existe en el hecho de que nunca sabemos precisamente a qué o a quién se refiere nuestro cantante, ¿verdad? As we go through the lyrics of the song, there's allusions that are being made, right? The words themselves have connotations that have an implied meaning, and there's a certain amount of references to things that are related to whatever the metaphor of the song is. Okay, no? If we start to analyze this as a poem, we can start to see certain elements that are repeated, like the grand facade, the idea of pride, the wanting to be complete.
Yeah.
Right? The search for completeness. And it's not an accident that some of these phrases come either before or after variations of the song title either, right? In your eyes, the light, the heat. Your eyes, I am complete in your eyes. I see the doorway. So the way that this song is structured, the way that it's layering these elements, it's being done in a very purposeful way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's being done so that we find an interpretation that suits us individually. That's ultimately what functional ambiguity can do for us as an audience member. And that's what we can use as a tool as the author of any piece of writing. This doesn't apply just to your typical poem. This can be used in some instances in even like storytelling. And if any of you have ever watched a movie where at the very end of the movie, you're not entirely sure if it was a good ending or a bad ending, that's also a form of functional ambiguity because it leaves it open to you, the audience member. It leaves it open to your interpretation, your unique take on whatever that ending is. Yeah, like Lisa Frankenstein, exactly. Does anyone have any other thoughts or observations before we continue on? Again, there's no right or wrong answer to this. Now, if we were to look at the song in its entirety, in its remix version, right, there's a couple of additional verses that are a part of it. Estos versos, hay un verso inicial en la versión, en el remix, y también un verso adicional que termina la canción. Both of these verses, they are sung in the same way, and they kind of repeat some of what's in the core of the song. But there's something that I noticed when I was actually transcribing the song. And this, I think, if we were to look at this from a slightly more spiritual or religious point of view, it does add a little bit more, say, flavor to the song. Accepting all I've done and said, I want to stand and stare again till there's nothing left, and oh, it remains there in your eyes. Whatever comes and goes, I will hear your silent call, and I will touch this tender wall till I know I'm home again. Oh. So that's how it starts in the remix version. And it ends with accepting all I've done and said, I want to stand and stare again till there's nothing left, and oh, it remains there in your eyes. Whatever comes and goes, oh, it's in your eyes. Again, if we want to now look at this through a more spiritual or even religious lens, accepting all I've done and said, I want to stand and stare again till there's nothing left, and oh, it remains there in your eyes. That's kind of a callback to these ideas of letting the grand facade burn, and without noise, without my pride, I'll reach out from the inside. So these are some things that we might call callbacks that, again, build on some of the underlying metaphors that are being used to describe whatever our author was wanting to describe. Now, if this is getting a little bit more confusing in terms of functional ambiguity, well, let me tell you. Here's a little bit of backstory on Peter Gabriel's song, In Your Eyes. Peter Gabriel did intend over the many years of his career to bring more of the African sound to Western audiences. And one of the things about this song in particular, if you take a moment to listen to it, you'll find that it does use several instruments that are native to African countries. And it uses this technique called layering. Layering is something that is found in a large variety of indigenous African like song forms, musical forms. Esta técnica de estratificación toma varios instrumentos y los va desarrollando para formar un ritmo singular. So for a lot of people, it can, at least who are more used to traditional Western forms of music, it can sound a little overwhelming. But the thing about this song in particular, In Your Eyes, is that not only does it use African instruments, but it also incorporates a specific concept. Peter Gabriel's song was inspired by an African tradition of ambiguity in song between romantic love and love of God. That's why there are references to things like the grand facade, the lights, the heat, the 1,000 churches, those doorways. Those things are references to a sense of spirituality, to religion. And if you look at the song as a kind of way of talking about love of God or love for God, it can take on a completely different meaning for you. And that's honestly part of the reason why that one particular couplet always tends to get me, because I cannot tell you that I'm a very religious person. I consider myself more of a spiritual person, but I always think about this maybe Catholic idea of pride being a sin, right? And if I want to be closer to a God that loves me in the way that it's described in this song, then I need to let go of my pride, right? And it's always a reminder of not being overly proud, and not allowing myself to sometimes ask for help. That's something that I genuinely struggle with every day. So this song always strikes a chord in me because of that, right? The song In Your Eyes is in its own way a reminder that I am enough and that I deserve the love of a God that loves me. And that's not something that we hear often in many religions, to be honest with you, many Western religions at least. And this is something that I think that was unique to the time, to the just approach that Peter Gabriel took in creating this song, In Your Eyes. So for me, the song itself really does use that functional ambiguity in that you could easily dedicate this song to someone that you love. And it could be just like in the movie with John Cusack, where he stands there holding the boombox, playing this specific song because he's so heartbroken about a girl that dumped him. Like, that's such an iconic scene in that movie from the 80s. I believe it's Say Anything, if I remember right, the name of the movie. So it could be interpreted in that way, but it can equally be interpreted as a song about spirituality and spiritual love. So in that way, it has that essence of functional ambiguity. And the only reason why this functional ambiguity works is because of the metaphor of eyes, like seeing through your eyes, seeing through another person's point of view, and then the invocation of images that are related to the original metaphor. That's how this functional ambiguity is achieved. In poetry, you might also hear it heard as an extended metaphor. Una metáfora extendida es cuando se usan imágenes adyacentes para reforzar la metáfora original. And as an example, aquí tengo una lista de ejemplos de la manera en que uno puede extender una metáfora y así ojalá llegar a la ambigüedad funcional. It's also really important to understand that all words have connotations. So as we talk about a metaphor, like in the case of this one, birds, and we talk about the adjacent images, the things that are related to birds, we also need to recognize that each one of these has a connotation associated to it. Por ejemplo, aquí si hablamos de las galaxias. Las imágenes o ideas o conceptos que son adyacentes a las galaxias serían cosas como los cielos o las estrellas, el espacio exterior, los agujeros negros. Sorry for the typo there. Los satélites, planetas, cosas cósmicas, hay que decir, ¿verdad? Esos serían las imágenes adyacentes a las galaxias. Y cada uno de esos imágenes tiene una connotación. And as we talk about birds, for example, as a metaphor, birds have a lot of different imagery and a lot of different concepts that we can use to help us extend a metaphor. We can talk about the bird's nest. We can talk about the bird's wings. We can even go so far as to talk about its song and the way that it tweets. Or we can bring in other birds, right? Because birds in particular have predators that are also other birds too. So there's a lot of ways that you can use these adjacent images to build on your metaphors and to carry it through the entire poem. Exactly, Abraham. KFC. I am definitely a predator of chickens. So, does anyone have any questions so far about the extended metaphor and how that functions? And for anyone that isn't familiar, I did also provide you here with the definition for connotation. La connotación es el sentido implícito o secundario de palabras. Dicho de otra manera, es el carácter o la personalidad o el entendido insinuado que atribuimos a las palabras. The kind of summary that I provided here of what a connotation is, it's a secondary implied meaning of words. It can also be thought of as the character, personality, or the inferred understanding that we attribute to words. And that's really key, that we attribute to words. It's something that is shared usually within a culture, within a society. Lo que decimos en un instante o en un país, por ejemplo, quizá no tenga la misma connotación en otros países. That's especially true for those of us that are bilingual and who speak Spanish, because Spanish can be different from region to region. A banana is a banana, but when you talk about a plátano in another country, especially in the Latin American country, a plátano can have, different connotations to it. A person will imagine in their mind a different type of plantain and not just your typical average banana. So that's really, really important to remember when we're talking about connotations and extended metaphors, because the connotation is what makes it happen.
I think it's also good to point out that not all extended metaphors will lead into an functional ambiguity. The functional ambiguity is basically using two things so you can lead on, in this case, like the bird being the love or the church, the God thing. So it's kind of in between those two things. But sometimes you have metaphors that are definitely going to just one direction. You don't have to be like guessing.
Yeah, that's very true. And that is why in our exercises here, I'm not going to ask you to aim for functional ambiguity, not yet. But thank you, Abraham, for bringing that up. Because again, functional ambiguity is one of those things that if you are planning for it, you can definitely make it happen. But in order to get to that point, we need to build on our metaphors. So we have to begin with these building blocks first. Now, as our first exercise here, I'd like you all to take a moment and look at our examples related to both birds and galaxies. What connotations do those words carry? What connotations does the word nests have? Or wings? Or better said, migration? What connotations do these words have? Feel free to put your thoughts in the chat. Remember, there's no right or wrong. It's just the implied meaning of these words. Thank you, River. You already got us going. River wrote, nests can be homey, comfort, or a tangly mess. Si prefieren en español. Para este ejercicio vamos a empezar con la examinación de las imágenes adyacentes a los pájaros y a las galaxias. ¿Cuáles connotaciones llevan las palabras tal como nidos? O en el caso de galaxias, las imágenes de los cielos, las estrellas, el espacio exterior. ¿Cuáles son las connotaciones que llevan esas palabras? That's a really good one, Angie. Thank you for adding that. Nests can be a foundation. Mm-hmm. Definitely, I agree with Abraham. Wings can have a connotation of freedom, and the nest can be a connotation of nurture. ¿Qué tal el concepto o la idea del piar, el pío pío de los pájaros? ¿Cuáles connotaciones llevan esas palabras? Feathers can be lightness, right? Weight, or lack thereof. River in the chat added, wings can have you fly, maybe feel soft, be flexible. But if you think of planes, they can feel metal and rigid. And if you think of buildings, they are expansive and can hold things inside of them. I like that. Angie added, feathers can be some sort of a legacy. And thank you, Mary. Migration can mean change and movement. Yeah. It can definitely imply those things. I think if we were to think of feathers, by the way, as legacy, for those that maybe don't know, but feathers, when they first grow, they grow kind of like that center piece first, and it's then the smaller feathers grow at the bottom and out as the feather is growing. So the tips of feathers are the oldest part of the growth, which is true for pretty much all hair, right? All forms of hair. But if you think of feathers as a form of legacy, you can also think of them in that way, right? You can think of them as growth, as the layering of fibers as they grow and continue to extend out into some other realm. I like that stars are celebrities. Yeah, that definitely is a connotation. Migration is to move on, right? Wings imply freedom or independence. Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Luz. What about asteroids? Los asteroides. ¿Cuáles connotaciones llevan los asteroides? Does anyone have any questions, by the way? How are we feeling so far? World destruction. Yeah, exactly, Aaron. Asteroid peligro. Yeah. Whereas comets are wishes. Nice. Thank you, Miss Susie. Wings are power, protection, and purpose. I like that. A falling star. Stars and suns in the same reference indicate distance and closeness. Cold and fire. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Because even though our sun is in fact a star, we don't associate it with stars. It's because it's our star. Therefore, it requires a name. Black hole, darkness plus loneliness. Yeah, spaghettification.
You went scientific on that one.
Oh, yeah. Pues ya sabes. That idea by itself scares me.
I don't think we'll ever make it to that point. But the Simpsons probably would.
Yeah. So as you think about what connotations mean, satellites trigger you. Fair enough, Angie. But satellites provide connection. So I would say satellites is to unite or connect. Nice, I like that.
Equals internet.
Right, exactly. Yeah, all of a sudden this became a commercial for you know what. We don't want to trigger Angie here.
I literally logged on right after clocking out, and I'm like, oh, this is my freedom right now. And I'm like, they're bringing me back to work.
Wow. They got you even here, man.
Oh. Oh, well, we're happy to have you here tonight, Angie. So our next exercise, as you can see here on the screen, is I'd like you now that you've thought about connotations and you were given some examples of adjacent images for our primary metaphors that we're discussing this semester, I'd like you to pick one, right? Pick your primary metaphor. It could be birds or it could be galaxies. I mean, you can do both if you want, but take it a little bit slow, I would say, for this particular exercise. So select one, ¿verdad? Ya sea pájaros o galaxias. Y en el segundo paso, ya después de que elijan su metáfora principal, quiero que determinen cuál concepto va a simbolizar su objeto elegido. Determine what concept your selected object is going to symbolize. What do you want birds to symbolize in your poetry? For this poem, I should say. Or galaxies. Now, I did give some examples there. It could be a higher concept like life, faith, love, consciousness. That's usually how metaphors work. There's usually something that's a little bit more ethereal, esoterical, that a particular grounded object will help us symbolize. Si es el pollo loco, pues que sea el pollo loco. Pero imagínense, ¿cuál concepto va a simbolizar su objeto? Allí tienen un set de ejemplos. Y para el último paso, quiero que escriban una lista corta, ya sea de 4 o 5 imágenes adyacentes que usarás para crear una metáfora extendida. Es muy importante que sean conscientes de las connotaciones que llevan tales imágenes o palabras. This third step is going to help you with the layering effect that you are going to exercise in your final poem. So, step 3, after you determine what metaphor you are going to use, create a short list, and it can be 4 or 5 adjacent images that you will use to create an extended metaphor. But again, remember the connotations. Connotations are important. And remember our quote that we started with. No todo necesariamente tiene que llegar a la tristeza. Not everything, not every poem needs to arrive at sadness. As we write about these bigger things, remember that connotations are what are going to help you with the reinforcement of your extended metaphor. Does anybody want to share what they're going to start with? Anybody want to give us maybe one example of something that they hope to incorporate into a poem? Miss Susie?
I'm going to select the birds.
Okay.
It's going to represent a collective consciousness.
Oh, nice. And as a collective consciousness, what maybe adjacent image do you hope to incorporate? It could just be one right off the top of your head. It doesn't have to be.
The first image that comes up is something like a sieve into a human being that lets things just go in and out. It's like electrical, it's particles of energy, but that's how I my first sense. In that there's a pull because we're sharing from the same tribe a sense of morality.
Oh, okay. It's funny that you said a sieve. What immediately came to mind was actually the texture of feathers. I'm not sure if you've ever dipped a feather in water.
Mm-hmm.
But when you dip a feather in water, especially if it's freshly off of the bird and it still has the oils from the bird's skin, the water will kind of pool, and then eventually, little by little, it'll seep through the fibers of the feather.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But that could be like an adjacent image, right? That you use, the imagery of the feather as a sieve.
That's kind of for the poem that was for last week. That's sort of kind of how I saw the image too. Yeah. That the feather, I saw the movement and I saw the softness.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. It sounds like Abraham might be choosing birds and the concept of the flock.
Oh no, I was a suggestion
Oh,
for
yes, yes.
for Susie because she was talking about the collective,
Yeah.
Yes.
and then she was talking about birds. So that could be a word that you can utilize. Flock.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Get my brain thinking.
Yeah. And then Angie added in the chat galaxies, how we as humans have the power to create galaxies and new lifelines. Nice.
Yes. True.
Yeah. And like if I were to make a suggestion for, anyone looking at galaxies like Angie, it might be useful to consider that a star nursery is essentially the formation of a galaxy, right? That is where the sun, like stars themselves, are born because of gravity, combining all the different types of gases and molecules that are floating in outer space. And once they combine and fuse through fission, they then begin creating their own little galaxies.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if humans are galaxies, then think about how we draw people into our rotation, into our gravity well.
That's really an important piece. I mean, that's very real. If you start thinking of it in quantum physics, start thinking of it in terms of string theory, and you see all the connections to that thought, how it's represented in that it can be explained in terms of our notion of laws that structure the earth. But then this whole group is a lot of lawbreakers. So I think that we're going to think outside the box and create those scenarios or those things or what we'd like to see happen, So many possibilities with it.
Yeah, totally. Ms. Luce?
Yeah, I like the idea of exploring galaxies and consciousness. I think I would probably want to include extraterrestrials and other sentient beings.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
Me too.
Stars, of course. It's definitely something to explore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we all come from stardust, correct?
We do. We're all made of the same materials that are found in star nurseries.
Yep.
So
there you go.
At our most basic, carbon.
I don't think we're allowed to think like that in schools. We don't get taught to make those connections, That, we think we're so self-absorbed on this planet, but, if we would have learned much, much earlier that there could be a million other planets that have life forms on it as a reality, then we would all be growing up with a different way of thinking about the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's what they're talking about in science now. All those things have slowly been coming up about the connectedness and the collective consciousness and the interwoven of our vibrations. The Chinese have been using the meridians for thousands of years. Our science is now working with it. And this is a very powerful time in history. But I bet you in 50 years, they're going to say the same thing again when there's another breakthrough with another part of science,
Yeah, that's likely to happen for sure.
Yeah.
As long as we return to believing in science and believing in things that can be measured. But of course, not all things can be measured, right? And that's the beauty of metaphors. Metaphors can help us measure the immeasurable.
Magic.
Yeah. So with that, I will now provide you with your homework prompt. For this week, your homework is to write that poem. Write a poem that extends your selected metaphor. Layer your adjacent imagery throughout your poem, and if possible, aim to achieve functional ambiguity. So basically, take all the different concepts that we discussed today, from metaphor and connotation to even the idea of layering, and building on your metaphors, write that poem. Write that poem that tells me what a galaxy is or what a bird is for you. And if it reaches a level of higher consciousness, a level of double meaning, then you've reached functional ambiguity. Now again, don't feel like you have to incorporate this, right? This functional ambiguity thing is going to be something that, I'm laying out there as a challenge for you, but don't be overwhelmed by it. More than anything, focus on writing an extended metaphor. Because if you try to focus on everything else, you may feel overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
But it is possible. And if you really extend that metaphor to the degree that it is possible, it will, believe me, reach functional ambiguity. La tarea para esta semana para ustedes es escribir un poema que extiende su metáfora elegida. Estratifica tus imágenes adyacentes durante todo tu poema y, si posible, intenta lograr la ambigüedad funcional. Claro, si pueden lograr la ambigüedad funcional es porque han de verdad metido a las horas para extender su metáfora, ¿verdad? Esto no es algo que va a pasar de un día al otro, es algo que posiblemente les tome un poquito de tiempo. Pero sobre todo quiero que se enfoquen en esta primera parte. Escriben un poema que extiende su metáfora. Cuéntenme, enséñenme, sobre todo enséñenme qué significa un pájaro, qué significa una galaxia. Y les juro que si de veras se enfocan en eso, con su mismo trabajo van a llegar a esa ambigüedad funcional. With that, we will close out today's session. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about Eduardo Chirinos or reading the poem that we quoted, I have the sources here on the last page of our handout. The recording of this particular session will go up on our YouTube channel and on our website, along with this same handout, so you can download the handout and you can watch the video at the same time. So thank you everyone for joining me tonight. Les agradezco muchísimo a ustedes que tomaron el tiempo para leer la canción, y también a ustedes que leyeron el trabajo de San Juanita. I really appreciate Miss Luz and River. I think that this has been a great session, honoring the memory and legacy of our dear friend San Juanita. I wish you all a great weekend. Please don't forget to send us your preliminary drafts of your poems on Friday, or as soon as you can, before our next session next week on Tuesday, when we will begin providing you with feedback. So, que se la pasen muy bonito y hasta luego.